So it looks like Wisconsin, a key swing state, could be a challenge for the president to win back in 2020. According to recent polling by Fox News, President Trump trails Vice President Joe Biden by 9 points in a head-to-head matchup.
Trump also trails behind Senators Warren and Sanders, but their leads are within the polls' margin of error. Joining us via Skype to weigh in on this and everything 2020 is comedian and the author of Your Country Is Just Not That Into You, Jimmy Dore. Welcome back to the show, Jimmy. Great to see you.
It's great to see you guys. I appreciate you having me on the show before they cancel you because they figure out you're doing real news.
You can't tell everybody
Come on.
the truth here, Jimmy. Okay, Jimmy, what is so currently we are seeing these head-to-head matchups in Wisconsin and in other places. Basically, I think I've also seen Morning Consult had Bernie Sanders number 2 in some of the early primary states. What is the state of the race as you see it right now?
The state of the race I see right now is Joe Biden is falling fast. It seems like people are catching on, and he's falling faster than the teeth out of his mouth at a debate. But I think Senator Sanders has a big problem. We talked about this last time. Senator Sanders' big problem is that he keeps running against Donald Trump in the primary. He's not running against the Democratic Party. That's how Trump won. He ran against the Republican Party. People are tired of the establishment. And again, this we're going to talk about in a second, but this impeachment process just reveals more of that people are just, Trump just cut food stamps. Nobody's talking about that. We're talking about a phone call to Ukraine.
Right, exactly. Not to mention something we talked about on the show, all the sort of revolutions that are happening all over the world, and you get no coverage of that in the media whatsoever. Instead, we're fixated on the exact language of a telephone call transcript. Not that that's insignificant or not important, but do we really want to spend the next 5 months pulling our hair out over that 24/7? I would argue maybe not. What do you think, though, that Senator Sanders needs to do in the debate next week? Like, what would you advise him to do?
Well, I think he has to, at some point, turn to Joe Biden and Elizabeth Warren and say, you can't take the system's money and try to reform it. You can't take their money. And Joe, you're taking their money. How much money have you taken from pharmaceuticals, from the military-industrial complex? How much did you take from a bank so you would make it harder for people in crisis to find protection in bankruptcy? You remember when you did that, Joe Biden? He's got to do that. He's got to run against the system because Bernie's whole thing is that he's trying to upset the system, although the secret is really not. He's an incrementalist. But because he's working inside the system and he's sheep herding progressives into the Democratic Party. And then once they cheat him, he tells them to go support that thing that just cheated them. And that is the problem in the first place. The reason we have Donald Trump, as Dylan Raddick, I forget who pointed this out, Chris Hedges. He said, Donald Trump is what gets vomited up from a failed democracy. And that's what we're living in right now. And you get rid of Donald Trump, we still have 80% of workers working paycheck to paycheck, 30 million people without health insurance. You know the drill. It's just ridiculous. Real people need solutions. And if somebody can run against that system and expose it, that's what Bernie Sanders has to do.
But
He's
Jimmy,
not
the pundits get very upset when Bernie is angry and divisive.
Did you see? I mean, when Joe Biden says that Trump has broke every norms, yes, and people love that he's breaking every norm. People love that he stood up and told Jeb Bush, your family lied us into a war. Everybody thought that was the end of his campaign, if you remember that. All the smart people said that was the thing that catapulted him. People are so waiting for someone to stick a thumb in the eye of the establishment. And you know what? They keep providing Trump the ability to do that on a daily basis.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jimmy. I mean, I've pointed out here so many times, which is that the reason that people like Trump is because the establishment had sold out their interests for over 30 years. And that he came in and was the first person who was just like, you know what? That's not how it is. And he just spoke it. He spoke the truth right into their face, and that's what they loved. Now, to this point, actually, Bernie Sanders just released this new what is it, Money in Politics plan, where he's saying that the DNC will ban all corporate contributions. That, of course, has a lot of people in Washington here very scared, and it's noteworthy not a pledge that we've necessarily seen from Senator Elizabeth Warren. I think that's one of the central things that we've seen here is that Warren is saying, if you pick me, I'll play nice with the DNC and will carry us across the finish line. And Bernie, even in his current primary state, is like, no, I am an existential threat to the way the business as usual is being done here.
Well, I hope he means it this time, because last time he didn't. Last time he signed off on superdelegates. He had all the power in the world, And he said, okay, you guys can keep doing super delegates. You can move to the right after the primary and pick Tim Kaine instead of a progressive. You can continue to ignore the progressive base. You can continue to get in bed with Wall Street and anti-union people like Tim Kaine. And so I hope he means it this time, because last time he didn't.
It's the whole unity thing, which is just a way of centrists not wanting to talk about real issues and make everybody like it. Everybody's the same. We all have to get along, except that they're constantly knifing everybody else, and nobody talks about that. How do you think that impeachment is going for Democrats right now? Because they think that they're winning, right? They see these polls showing more Americans are in support of an impeachment inquiry. They think this is going really well for them. What do you think?
I think if it goes good enough, that certainly Hillary will be elected president. What do you think? It's going. They thought Hillary. I mean, it's going. This is the worst thing they could possibly do. First of all, only the Democrats would pick a scandal that would knock out their frontrunner too, and expose the crimes within the Obama administration. Because according to the Hill's reporting, the Obama administration was pressuring the Ukraine prosecutor to drop the charges against Hunter Biden. That's been reported in the Hill. This is there's everyone pretending that corruption is a one-way street. They're all Nancy Pelosi's son, I just found out, was also on an energy board. Hunter Biden in China. This is a dream come true for Donald Trump for them to do this. And by the way, he's never going to be removed, because Mitch McConnell, all he has to do is say, hey, do you guys think we should have a trial? No? All right, we're not going to have a trial. It's all over. That's it. And so Trump, why do you think Trump goes out on the lawn next to a helicopter and asks China to investigate them? Because he knows he's not going to be impeached. He's not going to be removed from office for this stuff. That's why he's so cocky. And just like a scummy corporate guy that Trump is, he tries to outsource everything to China.
Well, and it's funny because we've seen too, I mean, we've had Democrats on the show, you talked about this in the past, which is they literally come on and say, no, it's not a problem whatsoever that Hunter Biden was on a Ukrainian energy board. They don't even want to touch this China deal with the 10-foot pole. I mean, this thing was so shady that John Kerry's stepson, who was in business with Hunter, was like, whoa, this is too shady for me. I mean, that is what was happening at the time. It's just very clear cut.
Well, you know, the liberal class has amnesia. You know that. Now, why didn't... So if you're going to impeach Trump for a phone call to the Ukraine doing the exact same thing the Barack Obama administration did, they literally invited the prosecutor from Ukraine over to the White House under the guise of fighting corruption. And they said, hey, cut out this investigation. They did it first. So the fact that if you're going to impeach Trump for a phone call to the Ukraine and George Bush walks the earth and Dick Cheney walks the earth, bona fide war criminals who ordered torture to cover it up. The head of our CIA is a bona fide torturer. She's a woman. She broke the glass ceiling, picked up some of those shards of glass, and then started torturing somebody with it. That's who we're living in an unbelievably corrupt time right now. And they think people don't see this. People can't pay their bills. They don't give a crap about a phone call to the Ukraine, especially when the people who are going to prosecute him are people who are probably more corrupt than him. Joe Biden had more opportunity to be more corrupt than Donald Trump. Donald Trump couldn't put legislation that made it harder for people in a bankruptcy. Donald Trump couldn't make it, he didn't write a law that put black people in jail or expand the surveillance state. He didn't do any of that. Joe Biden had opportunity, and at every opportunity, Joe Biden was corrupt, and that's what this is going to reveal. And why is George Bush still walk the earth? Why was there never an impeachment over a guy who lied us into an illegal war that killed maybe 1 million people and then ordered torture to cover up? Because Nancy Pelosi was complicit in torture, as Julian Assange revealed in 2002. She was briefed that they were torturing people, and she said impeachment's off the table, because if they would have did impeachment, it would have been revealed that she's just as corrupt as George Bush and Dick Cheney. And that's the whole problem. The Democrats are not an alternative to the Republican Party. They are just as corrupt, if not more.
She said after the Bush administration, she said investigating them, impeaching him, it would be a waste of time.
That's right.
Right? Not worth the time. So, I mean, it's just incredible what triggers the elites to take this action and what doesn't. You know, here we are also funding the worst humanitarian crisis currently unfolding in the world in Yemen. That doesn't rise to the level, though. It's this phone call with the Ukraine that is really the thing.
Well, you know why that is, Crystal? It's because they all agree on the genocide in Yemen. That's why nothing happens. They all
agree. With very few exceptions. Yeah.
Very bipartisan consensus. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us, man. We
Thanks,
really
Jimmy.
appreciate it.
Great to see you. We'll have more Rising after this.